In this edition of Market Report Monday, we are talking about the northernmost barrier island of Tampa Bay, as well as home to the comeback dolphin of the year, the famous tailless dolphin from the movie Dolphin Tale. Real quick, for those that don't know me, I'm Adam Hancock. I have a real estate group in Southwest Florida, and I put out daily videos on Florida relocation and investment assistance. And for access to over 90 videos in the last 11 months and counting. Okay, although it's technically Tuesday, this is still our Market Report Monday, and this focuses on the barrier island of Clearwater Beach. So a little itinerary before we get started. I'm going to first talk about location. I'm going to show you where this is at, what it's around, kind of the context of this area in the Tampa Bay area as a whole. And then we're really going to get deep into the numbers for this analysis. We're going to talk about the quantity of sales year over year. 2019, 2020 is the main focus. We're going to talk about the price per square foot year over year, get an idea of how prices are roaming. We're going to talk about the discount percentage to see how buyers are doing versus what sellers are trying to get. And then we're going to talk about months of inventory. The last thing we're going to hit is 2021, what we think's going on, what's active on the market, how is that differing, all that kind of stuff to hopefully give you a better idea if you're looking to purchase in this area. Let's hop over to my computer and get started. Okay, let's talk location real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this one's all about the numbers, but I want to put in context like Clearwater Beach as a whole. So Clearwater Beach is basically one zip code. And it exists basically here, and then it gets to right at the tip of Bel Air. So a lot of the most expensive property in all of Tampa Bay moves amongst Bel Air Beach and Davis Island over here in the inland. So the kind of the value proposition of the Tampa Bay as a whole, it's a lot harder to figure out versus like a Sarasota, like I talk about a lot. But Clearwater Beach as a whole is like kind of a gem. It's a barrier island. It's very similar to like a lot of how Sarasota is set up in like Siesta Key and Longboat. These are barrier islands. You have the mainland Clearwater. You have Clearwater Beach as a separate place. You cross bridges to get there. And then this is the northernmost tip, like I mentioned in the intro, because you can kind of see here it ends here. You got kind of like Caladesi Island. You got Honeymoon Island. But there's a lot of really nice spots here. Now, the biggest thing about Tampa Bay is just like what the value proposition is, right? So Clearwater, just in a nutshell, is it's the northernmost tip as a barrier island. And you just have kind of like intangibles, right? You have really nice restaurants. You have the Clearwater Aquarium, and that's what I mentioned at the intro about that's where Dolphin Tale. I actually ran into both Hulk Hogan and Harry Connick Jr. once at the restaurant. I forgot the name of it. It's like Island something, but it's right across from the aquarium. While Harry Connick was filming that, Hulk Hogan lives in that area. But that's where the Dolphin Tale movie was filmed. It's just top restaurants. The Phillies have a spring training facility there. And you just have classic beach stuff, a little bit more popping than like some more laid back beaches. But yeah, just really traditional, like classic beach, top ranked, all that kind of stuff. But the value proposition of how you look at the area is kind of what you want access to, right? So this is Tampa Bay as a whole. So Tampa Bay is super inland. So a lot of people I talk to aren't really aware of how inland Tampa is. So you think of living in Tampa, you're not living near the beach. You're living near the bay. But to go to the beach, the Gulf Coast is way over here, right? So if you live like up here, it's like what beach is parallel to you? And then also, how do you get to them, right? You get too far in uncharted territory here, like how are you possibly getting there? So it's either an over, or it's down and around, or it's up and around. So you got Clearwater Beach, and then it runs along the Gulf Coast here, similar to how the Sarasota Manatee Coast is. So Clearwater Beach, and then Indian Rocks, which I mentioned in a previous video, great spot. Indian Shores, North Reddington, then you get to the Madeira, Treasure Island, St. Pete, Paso Grill, great spot, similar to Lido Beach in Sarasota. Tierra Verde, you hop, and then you hit Anna Maria. So that's kind of the proposition of like, if you're looking to move to Florida's Gulf Coast, what do you want access to, right? Do you want to be in Clearwater, St. Pete, and then your city's Tampa? And then you have downtown St. Pete too, but still inland here, right? Do you want to be in Siesta Key and Longboat and you're downtown in Sarasota? Do you want to be in Venice Beach with Venice? Do you want to be in Naples with Fort Myers, or Sanibel with Fort Myers, or Marco Island? So it's kind of what do you like on a map as far as what do you want access to when you're not at the beach? That's the general proposition to the area. So I just want to put that in a little bit of context. A lot of lovely towns here. So Dunedin's awesome. Safety Harbor's great. You have this beach to bay vibe here, you can see. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, right? Like this is just it's a large area, right? You have Pinellas County, Pasco if you get high enough. You have Hillsborough County over here. It's a lot to look at. It's just a harder area remotely to get your head around, but tons of suburbs, a lot of amenities, a lot more going on than some of the sleepier towns. And Clearwater Beach is kind of just a gem on its own. It's just in a great spot. There's nothing else once there's nothing past it. There's nothing east of it. There's nothing west of it. There's nothing north of it. Super interesting, right? And then there's Tarpon Springs above on the inland there. So anyway, hope that gives you some context there. Let's hop into the first metric we discussed and get into the numbers. Okay, the first metric I'd like to talk about today is what I always start with, which is the sales volume by quantity from 2019 calendar year to 2020. This gives us some good context of like how the market's moving in general. You hear a lot about inventory, but how much is actually moving? So just a quick catch up if you haven't watched any of these are in millions down here, and then it goes to, we're basically started at 300,000 to 2 million plus, and it's in the main shopping buckets that people do. So I'm going to give you a breakdown here of kind of what's going on. We're going to talk about how it's split up, maps the type of housing, and then we're going to move on. So blue is 2020 calendar year, green is 2019 calendar year, and what you're generally seeing is a similar trend to what I've been seeing in a lot of areas, is that we're seeing a general quantity increase. Demand's been kind of crazy all over the different counties. Interesting here, so for $300,000 to $400,000, you do see about a 12% dip here. And in a Clearwater Beach type of area, you're going to be heavily condominium. So this kind of market's going to be kind of this like really low entry point condominium to this area. So you have one category of housing that's down year over year here, so interesting there. $400,000 to $600,000, huge jump, about almost 50% jump in year over year sales there. $600,000 to $800,000, you got about a 20% jump. 47, $800,000 to $1 million. This is kind of always an oddball bucket in my mind. 17% there. This bucket's been real hot, $1 million to $2 million, so 53% jump there. Again, the quantity is not huge, but in a percentage standpoint, kind of big. 2 million plus, you got quite a big jump there. So you do have a lot of properties that move at like if you're doing a single family house on Clearwater Beach, you're going to get in a lot higher price point in general. And Clearwater Beach especially has a very, very heavy condominium population, like even versus like a Longboat Key or a Siesta Key. It's really, really heavily skewed to condominiums in the whole scheme. So what it basically gives you is we're seeing a general increase regardless of inventory positions. We're seeing a general increase, and there's enough property to increase overall. So that's similar in the beaches, it's similar in the mainland, that's everywhere, right? So I wanted to show you a little bit about that. The way this breaks down overall is, so you got about 534 sales in 2020, just the blue, that existed. And if you take basically condominium versus single family homes, what I was kind of talking about the skew is you have almost 400 of those 534 homes, all condominiums, right? So definitely all of this price range, especially, is even nice condominiums. You're talking, this is really heavy condominiums that are moving here. And then single family homes exist in about 100 of those 534 sales. And that's going to be, you're going to have a lot more of the single family here. You're going to have condos here as well. But you're going to see like 84 and 17, right? You're going to have very heavily single family here. So you can get a sense of what it would take to get a nice single family in this little tiny piece of land. You got some onesie, twosies, townhomes in that mix as well, but I want to show you that a little bit. And then if you talk price point here, an average price point for the condominiums of those 394, just under 400, $670,000 average price for condominium. Now average is a little skewed, like I always say. So median price is going to be $550, so an equal amount of the 400 condominiums above and under $550,000. So quite a bit of if you consider affordability on the beach, quite a bit of sales are moving less than $550,000, which in the grand scheme of what a lot of areas you look, this is relatively affordable depending on your perspective. I'm barring fees and that kind of thing. And then the single family homes, because it's a minute amount, you're getting an average of $1.1 million that moved in 2020. And then the median is also just about mid 900s, right? So of the 100, you do have, several, you have 50 of them under $916,000. But again, that could be 914, 912. These are all going to sit at the higher tier. So I hope that gives you a little bit more context. Now we're going to hop to our second one, and we're talking a little bit more about price. Okay, now the second metric we're going to talk about is price per square foot year over year, which is going to give us a lot better sense of the actual price increases. I know there's been a lot of talk about demand spurring price increases, so this will give us a better sense of what's actually happening on the sold homes. So what we're seeing is, we're seeing slight increases basically. So this one's actually a little bit more of an increase than a lot of the areas. So you hear a lot of people mentioning that, people are like, I'm not going to way overpay, and people are overpaying and all this kind of stuff. And generally, I have been disproving that for the most part. That hasn't been the sense. Things have been going quicker, but people have been drastically overpaying. This one's a little bit different. So you definitely have a little bit different clientele for sure, but you have higher increases, honestly. So the blue being the 2020. So you got 11% just in this bucket. So this was the one that was down year over year. So higher price per square foot, also down in sales. You have 6% here, 7% here. You have 9% here, 6% here, and then this one you got a little outlier moving in that 17 total sales bucket, with some bigger sales here. But yeah, generally, I mean, with an average, you're getting to that 7, 8, 9 points on a year-over-year sales in every single bucket. So definitely, that's different. That's different than I'm seeing in a lot of areas. So people are trying to get to this area. Their perspective of money coming from the Northeast is a little bit different. Still a value, even if they're paying more than the previous year. So I wanted to point that out. Okay, so a little bit more value related to this one. So as far as the way these break down, so what you have here of the 534 sales, you have almost an exact even split between conventional mortgages and cash purchases. So a little bit more competitive on being able to actually secure one of these properties with a mortgage, where some of the areas in Sarasota and Manatee County, it's almost like cash, or you might not even be in the conversation because terms are so difficult. So you got 265 of the 534 that went on conventional mortgage of some sort, right? It's cheap to leverage money at the moment. So, I mean, definitely a good idea than liquidating everything if you don't need to. And then cash, you had 257 of those, so pretty even split. As far as like tax and square footage wise, so of the 534 properties, you had an average annual tax, not including flood, but including CDD, an average annual tax of about $10,000, a median annual tax of about $8,300, and then price per square foot, you had an average price per square foot that settled around $410, and then a median price per square foot of about $383. So that kind of gives you the grand scheme. Now, those numbers I just gave on the mortgages and the tax and square footage was 2020 sales. And then you see the year-over-year price increases here. So I hope that helps to give you a little better sense. Definitely prices are rising on Clearwater Beach. Intangibles are the name of the game on securing appreciation at these moments. If you're gonna overpay for an area, intangibles, you can't get any closer to the water. You can't get more exclusive than a barrier island. That's the name of the game. That's a way to secure against a little bit maybe of the bubble, like may exist closer to the downtown districts where it's a little spottier. So now let's move to our third metric. Okay, our third metric for this video is discount percentage of list price versus sales price. So last one showed kind of an increase in prices. This will actually show what the seller was trying to get versus what the buyer was trying to get, or what the buyer was end up getting. So a little bit different there. So again, with this demand, a lot of time you're going to cascade down in discount percentage. So what this means is basically last year at this time, at 2019 at this time, the buyer was able to get about 4.68% down from the original asking price. And then 2020, they were able to get just 4.11. So it would be a decrease of 12%, right? So you're seeing a 12% decrease here, 9% less buyer advantage here, 14% here, 36% here, and a bigger one there for sure. 3% here, and then this one actually was a kind of a flip-flop there on a 9%. So this one again had that real outlier sale. So this is the 9% kind of advantage there, but again, a little bit skewed. But this usually kind of cascades with the thing. It's interesting nonetheless. So again, like if you were going to make like when I'm going to talk about 2020 here, if you're going to make an offer, right, that you would basically say it's listed at $800,000. Like this is what they were achieving last time. So if you took 96.73% or whatever, then that would be kind of what people settle at. So it kind of gives you a good barometer for strategy of offering based on what people are actually getting, right? These things are somewhat self-correcting. You may be able to get a bigger discount, but again, like these things are somewhat muted. They're all really similar in range year over year. So this is what actually moves, and a lot of this relates to like, was it actually priced right? That's really important. So in a perfect world, it's priced correctly. People get 3% down, the buyer's happy, the seller's happy. That's the proper way to do it. If you get too crazy on either side, then it's just a non-starter. And these are long negotiations, right? If you have a 50-day contract, right? If you get too ugly at the beginning, I'm very much of the opinion that you need like everyone to have mutual respect to get this thing to the finish line. And if people get beat up too bad, right, they're looking to get something back. And if this thing falls apart on day 45, that's way worse than falling apart on day 1. So, but again, like you can kind of see what you're working here. I think this really equips you with one, do the buyers have any advantage, right? And right now, that's not really the case in Southwest Florida. But also, just like I like that having this knowledge when you go to make an offer. This might be a cleaner, quicker deal if you're not unrealistic, thinking that everyone's getting 10% off. Those are going to be outliers. So that's discount percentage. That's kind of the context for that type of metric versus price per square foot. And let's hop to months on inventory next, and then we'll finish with talking about the future in 2021. Okay, our last metric for this video on Clearwater Beach before we talk about the future landscape is months on inventory. Always a good one to give you an idea of kind of buyer-seller demand relationship. So quick recap, this is purely the estimate of the amount of months it would take to sell the remaining inventory on the market if not a single other home was listed in that given time. We use kind of the end of the year of 19 versus 2020 across the different price points. So you can kind of see here, these are a little bit more, it's a little different than some of the areas, but you got flat in the lower price buckets, right? So it's similar ending position year over year. 400 to 600, where you see that a bigger increase in sales year over year, you got less inventory to start with, and then same with 600 to 800, a little bit down in 800 to a million. These ones you got some crazy outliers. This was just a timing game, kind of using that December month as a stopping point. You just got some real skew there. But this bucket was, these were both up year over year. And then just, it's got real outliers at this price point or whatever. So this is just completely skewed here. So a little bit of an outlier, but yeah, just kind of a good sense of just buyers don't have a crazy advantage right now. I mean, you got, granted, right, you're up in square feet a little bit, but the buyers are getting somewhat of a discount, that 4 to 5, 6% off of list price. But again, those list prices are a lot higher. So buyers are getting a discount year over year, and they're also paying more year over year. But that's going to come with demand. Beggars can't be choosers. It's not crazy overpaying, but you got a lot of intangibles here. When this inventory position normalizes a little bit, and again, the beaches are a little bit of this is going to be a little bit of the state of things, but when it normalizes a little bit, buyers get a little bit more of advantage. There'll be more to pick from. They can be more patient, that kind of thing. But I just want to give you a little general sense of that before we move on. So now let's talk about 2021. Okay, now that we've talked about the previous year over year, and we're about 39, 40 days into the current year, I thought it'd be a disservice to not consider 2021 basically a little bit more real time. So we're going to talk about the last month, and we're also going to talk about the future. So basically from January 1st to February 8th, you've had 64 total units move. Your average is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 1,800 square feet. The median's not all that different. Your average list price is $875 with a close price of about $841, which is $446 per square foot. And what this gives you is, this is kind of your discount percentage here. So this is what the inverse, right? So you got about 4 points, a little bit less there. So very normal kind of discount realm is what we were talking about from the previous year. And then this gives you the days to contract, days to close, and then the active days on market. So again, some of the higher price ones move a little slower, so a little skewed, but you kind of see there. And then your medians here are not all that different. You can kind of see that heavy condo push here because you have a average sold price of $670, or a median sold price of half of the 64 units were under $672 with the 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Yeah, it just screams condo. But again, very similar realm here, similar discount percentage and everything. And then, so that's kind of what's happened so far. So that brings you kind of up to speed. Okay, and that brings us to currently active. So what's currently on the market as of yesterday in Clearwater Beach as a whole, this is everything above $300,000. You have 96 total units, and your average list price of about $1 million at 1,800 square foot. So you can kind of see here, this is interesting because you see what's sold here, and you see what the list price average is here, and the square footage isn't crazy different, but you see list price average versus what actually moved in the last month might give you an indication that some of this stuff's going to sit. And then you see a median, slightly higher, right? So you're higher in every respect, and this is 1 month removed. So this might give you a little bit of indication of there's some room there, right? So there's 96 total units. Generally, I'm going to show you some listings here in a second of these 96. I want to show you some of the newest to the market and that kind of deal, so you can get an idea. But what you're generally, my thought again on this kind of area, right? This is an intangible game, right? So when I'm talking to people of like where the best appreciation is, potential ROI, that kind of thing, I think you just hug intangibles. You want to try to bump this against like grossly overpaying versus what would make sense on the evolution of that specific property and how it got to that price. But intangibles, as far as like a Davis Island, a Clearwater Beach, those kind of areas, like they're just pockets. Like it's not going to get worse, right? Like west of the trail in Sarasota and the beaches. You got to be somewhat realistic and somewhat reasonable, but you also like, if you like some of the other areas where it's like house to house and spottier, it might take a little bit longer for, you can't age people out. You can't, like, these properties have to change hands, and these are older areas. But some of the beach things are somewhat insulated from those rules. So they are farther from stuff, but you do have a large population that has disposable income and are trying to move there for their final years. So that's my general feel on this kind of stuff. I think it's going to continue rising. It's a minute amount of properties. You have 96 total listings on this entire zip code. I think it's going to continue to trend there and for a while. I think it's at least this year. It's going to keep moving that way. So let's move over and look at just a couple of the properties really, really fast, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, I mentioned those 95, 96 active properties on market. I want to show a couple of them real quick to give you kind of an idea of where they're located, what they cost. So I haven't sorted in active days to longest days on market. I think it's a good indicator of kind of what's fresh and whatever. And usually the nice stuff goes a little quicker. So we got you kind of see the 8, the 900, the 1.6. Again, these folks are a little bit high in price versus what's sold in the last little bit. But if you look at a kind of a map real quick, you can kind of see where these are scattered. So if we take like, kind of like this Gulf front's going to be real hot versus like the Bay part, it's going to be a little cheaper. But if we kind of look at a few of them, so like there's a couple up here. We look at, so this is 315K condo, and we'll kind of look at some pictures here. So this is $315,000. You can get something like this, and this is where you're seeing that lower price tier. So there's going to be quite a few condos that went here. So kind of anticlimactic, but $561 a month in fees, minimum 3-month rental, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. But again, like on an amazing area around a lot of expensive property around you. So then if we go a little lower, so this would be a condo at $900,000, so we can kind of see the other side. So complete beachfront there. Kind of see the other side. So a little nicer, but again, just the view here. Pretty amazing, a little bigger. So this is $899,000, but you can kind of see that appeal. If you can get in here for $400,000, like, I mean, as a rental especially, pretty amazing. Because this one's $899,000, $1,300 a month, a 3-bedroom, 3.5, a little bigger, but again, like, pretty dicey kind of rental dynamics there with those high monthly fees. And then let's find a single family. Okay, so here we have a single family at $2.3 million. Just want to show you the kind of the other side. I mean, you can kind of see this like corner of this thing's taken up, massive. But you got, bay and the beach on the other side. So you kind of see the location, but kind of what that kind of money could go here. More elegant design, not as modern, just kind of upper tier. But, really spacious, really big plot of land. And then, again, hard to beat that location, right? If it was me, I would have parceled that out in a couple properties. But you got a nice little pool here, and then you got that, classic deck overlooking there. But yeah, kind of get the idea, but I just wanted to show a couple. So these are active on the market properties, and now let's wrap up real quick. All right, guys, that does it for this edition of Market Report Monday, this time on the area of Clearwater Beach. Before you go, I have a couple value adds for you. Please make sure you check out our playlist of all the other Market Report Mondays we've done thus far so far. I think there's 7 or 8 of them. Please also check out a video specifically on the area of Clearwater, the city limits, I've done here. Please check out the description below, my contact information, plenty of extra links, some value adds there in general. And thank you very much for watching. Please reach out to us if you need anything at all, and we'll see you on the next one.